In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. The Quran says, "And prepare against them whatever you are able of power and steeds of war, by which you may terrify the enemy of Allah and your enemy." Chapter 8, verse 60. This verse reflects the early life of a young warrior who would rise from obscurity to power. A man remembered in history as Mahmud of Ghazni, the Sword of India. His story began not in the palaces of kings, but in the rugged mountains of Ghazni, where discipline, hardship, and faith forged him into a leader. You are watching Religious Stories. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what story you would like us to cover next. Mahmud was born in the year 971, the son of Sebikigin, a Turkic soldier who rose from slavery to become the ruler of Ghazni in present-day Afghanistan, from his father. Mahmud inherited not only blood but discipline, courage, and the determination to build something greater. Sebikigin instilled in him the qualities of leadership, patience in hardship, wisdom in counsel, and strength in battle. As a youth, Mahmud was trained as a soldier, hardened by the realities of war. The Ghaznavid realm lay between great powers, the Abbasid Caliphate, the Samanids of Central Asia, and the Hindu kingdoms of India. Survival required sharp swords and sharper minds. Mahmud quickly proved himself a capable warrior, leading men in battle while still young. When Sebikigin died, Mahmud faced rivals for power, including his own brother. But through both diplomacy and force, he secured the throne of Ghazni in 997. At just 26 years old, he became Sultan. From the beginning, his rule was marked by ambition. Unlike many rulers who defended only what they inherited, Mahmud dreamed of expansion. His eyes turned east, toward the rich lands of India. For Mahmud, conquest was not only about wealth. He sought to strengthen Islam's presence, to extend the frontiers of his realm, and to make Ghazni a center of both power and faith. His title itself reflected this. He called himself Yamin ad-Dawla, the right hand of the state, presenting himself as a champion of the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad. Under his leadership, Ghazni grew into a disciplined and powerful state. Armies were trained, fortresses strengthened, and his capital began to flourish with markets, scholars, and builders. He prepared for campaigns not in haste but with patience, ensuring his soldiers were well equipped and his people secure. By the dawn of the 11th century, Mahmud was ready to launch the campaigns that would make his name echo across history. The invasions of India. But how could one man, ruling from a small kingdom in Afghanistan, strike fear into empires and carve his place in history as the Sword of India? Mahmud of Ghazni had secured his throne, strengthened his army, and prepared his capital. Now he turned east, toward the rich and powerful lands of India. What followed would make his name echo across centuries. 17 campaigns that earned him the title Sword of India. India at the dawn of the 11th century was divided among many kingdoms. Though wealthy, its rulers often fought among themselves, making the land vulnerable to invasion. Mahmud saw both opportunity and duty to expand his realm, to bring glory to his dynasty, and to establish Islam's power in the region. His first campaigns were swift. In 1001, he clashed with Jayapala, the Hindu Shahi king of Punjab. The battle ended in Mahmud's victory, and soon the gates of northern India lay open. Over the years, his armies advanced deeper, defeating Rajput rulers and capturing fortresses. His strategy was ruthless yet brilliant, striking fast, overwhelming opponents, and retreating with treasures that enriched Ghazni. The most famous of his expeditions was his attack on the temple of Somnath in Gujarat. This temple was one of the wealthiest in India, filled with gold, jewels, and offerings. In 1025, Mahmud's forces marched hundreds of miles across deserts to reach it. After fierce resistance, he captured Somnath, seizing its treasures and returning to Ghazni with unimaginable wealth. The victory cemented his reputation across the Muslim world as a champion of Islam, though to his opponents, he was remembered as a ruthless conqueror. Each campaign poured riches into Ghazni. The city transformed from a modest capital into one of the most splendid cities of the age. Palaces, mosques, and schools rose, funded by the wealth of India. Mahmud became not only a feared warrior, but also a patron of culture and knowledge. Yet his invasions also left a controversial legacy to his supporters. He was the defender of faith, spreading Islam's power and humbling idols. To others, he was remembered for destruction and plunder. His story stands as both triumph and warning, a reminder of how power can build and break in equal measure. Mahmud's sword had carved his empire, but his vision extended beyond war. In the next chapter, we will see how he transformed Ghazni into a center of knowledge, gathering scholars, poets, and scientists, and leaving behind more than victories, leaving behind civilization itself. Mahmud of Ghazni's sword had carved an empire, but his vision reached beyond the battlefield. He wanted Ghazni not only to be feared for its armies, but also admired for its knowledge, culture, and beauty. With the treasures brought from India, he transformed his capital into a shining center of learning and civilization. Ghazni became a city of grandeur, filled with palaces, gardens, and mosques. The wealth of conquest funded libraries, schools, and institutions that attracted scholars from across the Muslim world. Mahmud was determined that his empire would be remembered not just for war but for wisdom. He surrounded himself with poets, scientists, and historians. The most famous of them was Al-Biruni, one of the greatest scholars of the age. Al-Biruni studied astronomy, mathematics, and geography under Mahmud's patronage. He traveled through India, learning Sanskrit, and studying Hindu philosophy and science. His works remain some of the most detailed accounts of Indian culture ever written by a Muslim scholar. Mahmud also supported the legendary Persian poet Ferdowsi, author of the Shahnameh, the epic of Persian king. Though their relationship was complicated, Mahmud's court became the stage on which Ferdowsi's immortal verses were recited. Other poets, historians, and scientists found patronage in Ghazni, making it a capital of both power and intellect. For Mahmud, this was part of his vision. He wanted Ghazni to rival Baghdad and Cordoba, to be remembered as a center of Islamic strength. He built grand mosques as symbols of his devotion, declaring himself both a servant of the Abbasid Caliph and a champion of the faith. Yet even in this brilliance there were shadows. His harsh campaigns in India left behind scars, and some accused him of seeking wealth more than faith. Still, his cultural contributions cannot be denied. Through his patronage, knowledge was preserved, poetry flourished, and Ghazni became a jewel of the East. As he grew older, Mahmud saw his empire stretch from Iran to the edges of India, and his capital rise as a center of glory. But no matter how great his power, he could not escape the one truth that comes for all rulers: death. Mahmud of Ghazni had ruled with the sword and built with vision, but like every ruler, his time came to an end. In 1030, after more than 3 decades on the throne, he died in Ghazni, leaving behind an empire that stretched from Iran to the plains of India. His death marked the close of a chapter, but his legacy continued to shape the region for centuries. He left his son, Masud, to inherit the throne, but the empire he built was difficult to maintain. Without Mahmud's sharp discipline and relentless drive, the Ghaznavids began to weaken. Still, his name remained carved in history as the first Muslim ruler to establish firm control in parts of northern India, opening the path for future Islamic dynasties on the subcontinent. His legacy, however, is one of contrasts. To his supporters, he was the champion of Islam, the sword of India, who who humbled idols, defended the faith, and built mosques, schools, and centers of learning. He was the man who turned Ghazni into a jewel of the East, supporting scholars like Al-Biruni and poets like Ferdowsi, leaving behind contributions to knowledge and culture that still shine today. To his critics, he was remembered as a ruthless conqueror, whose raids brought destruction and fear, whose hunger for wealth scarred the lands he invaded. His campaigns against temples and kingdoms in India left behind wounds remembered for generations. And perhaps that is the true weight of his story. Power can build civilizations, but it can also leave behind scars. Mahmud's life is a reminder of the dual edge of leadership, that strength must be balanced with justice and conquest with mercy. For Muslims today, his story carries lessons. He shows us the importance of vision, discipline, and supporting knowledge alongside power. He also warns us of the dangers of excess and the legacy of harshness. The Quran says, "So be patient. Indeed, the promise of Allah is truth, and let them not disquiet you who are not certain in faith." Chapter 30, verse 60. True greatness lies not in seizing lands, but in remaining steadfast and just for the sake of Allah. And so we remember him, Mahmud of Ghazni, the Sword of India, a man of courage, ambition, and vision, whose name shaped the destiny of South Asia, and whose story reminds us that every sword, no matter how sharp, must one day be laid to rest.